Families of Faith. We're continuing the study on family seasons. This is about the things that we go through in life in the context of our families.
Families, culture, traditions, and faith are the objects of our discussion this week. And we all know how it is, especially if we have immigrated or migrated from one place of living to another. Regardless of where we live, we all want to preserve the biblical truths and beliefs in our families as guiding principles of life.
From food, through music, how we dress, what roles men and women play, how we work, how we interact, how we value family. Culture, history, traditions, they have strong influence on us. Does it affect our faith?
This last week, my wife's boss was very much disturbed by the fact that my wife and I, as Christians, have not baptized our daughter when she was born as a baby. He comes from a Greek Orthodox Christian background. Tradition, nationality, and family belonging had powerfully formed his religious and spiritual views. Where we come from and the culture that we have grown up with have a big impact on our beliefs and our practices. The question, though, is it the Bible or is it the culture that surrounds us that shape our faith and beliefs?
Culture is very important because it's the base through which we understand things. This is why the apostles were trying to connect to people, to the Gentiles, through things that they were able to relate to, things that were familiar to their culture. It expresses things that are important for certain society. By definition, culture is an expression of the achievements of this society. They are good stuff. But for those who made a choice for a different culture, from a different dimension, the challenge is to keep a clear judgment and not just to choose the easy path with the things that we are already used to.
I have always wondered, why did God choose Abraham as a special object of his blessings, first as a family and later on as a nation? And I found an answer in Genesis chapter 18, verse 19, where God speaks personally to Abraham with certain assurance. God says, "For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment." God felt confident in Abraham's relationship, in Abraham's character, regardless of the culture and regardless of the surrounding circumstances. And this is how Abraham became the father of faith. Does that mean that culture did not influence Abraham and his family? Not at all. In fact, one of the poor choices that he made was just because of cultural practices, like using Hagar, his servant, to conceive a child for him. Regardless, what God was after was his willingness to change, his ability to adjust to change and not give in to stress and anxiety. And he did all of that with the power of faith and with God's intervention.
Culture is very deep in us. It's part of us. Many times we don't even realize how much our judgments are driven by it, even in how we understand faith and church. Especially when there is some turbulence in life, we're mostly reacting based on these things that are forming our identity. Culture is difficult to change. And the lesson points that the ability of a family to adjust to changes can either propel in the spiritual experience or lead to stress and anxiety.
It's interesting how further on the lesson draws our attention to the fact that there is a difference in the generational commitment and passion for God. At first, the parents could have strong passion and burning desire for the truth and their experience with God. However, not necessarily the same applies for the children, because they go simply through their own chain of events in the circumstances that they are found in. I like what the author says in the Wednesdays part of the lesson about children. Learning what one's parents believe is not personal faith. However, true faith isn't something genetic. Each one needs to know Christ for him or herself. At the end of the day, it's my personal relationship with God. It's my personal relationship with Christ. And this is what matters. This is what has value in the heavenly books. If culture, tradition, or church teaches differently, it's not from the Bible.
As they say, God doesn't have grandchildren, only children. We can be family because someone else had the connection. It's a direct relationship. Faith can be lived as cultural inheritance. It's a living experience. And we may actually make a good culture out of that to encourage and facilitate this personal experience. Sometimes we can make it too much about the great testimony that we had or our parents had and undermine the spiritual walk of our children or our brothers and sisters. What surpassed any culture and bonded people across many cultures is the gospel message. The love of God who sacrificed everything. God who died for me and then rose again. God who got victory over sin and is freeing us from its chains. This living experience breaks any stereotypes.
The message of Jesus Christ turned the world upside down. And there were some passionate people, like his disciples, who carried this good news of his resurrection and his crucifixion to all directions of the known world back then. The ball is in our court right now in the 21st century. How are we going to carry on the message as families and pass it on to the next generation? Let's be like Abraham.
Families of Faith is a theme this week, and it's about celebrating who we are and what our societies have achieved. But do not compromise and let faith be the driving force. We will continue next week with the lesson, What have they seen in your house?